Hi, this is Sean D'Souza, and you're listening to the 3-Month Vacation Podcast. This podcast isn't some magic trick about how to work less. Instead, it's about how to really enjoy the work that you do and to enjoy your vacation time. Hi, I'm Sean, and you're listening to the 3-Month Vacation. And because this podcast is called the 3-Month Vacation, and because we tend to travel quite a bit, people often ask us one question, which is your favorite place on the planet? What they don't ask me is, which is your favorite article? Which is fair enough. It's more interesting to listen to which is your favorite place on the planet than which is your favorite article, but since you're listening, I might as well tell you anyway. I started writing articles around the year 2000. At first, we'd send out the article every 15 days, and then every 7 days, and now the newsletter goes out twice a week. But one of my favorite articles is called Never Trust a Silent Customer. In New Zealand, where we live, you'll find that people don't tend to complain that much, even if they get bad service, even if the food is not so good, even if the coffee is burnt. They tend not to complain. And that kind of customer is a really nice one, a very polite one, but you don't want to trust them. You trust a customer that complains and that gives you feedback, and it sounds really odd, but hear me out. Think about the psychology of complaining about something. It's not just a whine. It's because you care about it enough to want to come back. If you're never going to go back to the cafe, never visit the restaurant again, never want to do a course ever again with that company, then what's the point of complaining? I mean, sure, you can get your money back if there's some kind of guarantee like that. But most of the time, we are complaining when we are on home ground. Because at some level, we have chosen that cafe, we've chosen that restaurant, we've chosen that course, we've chosen that supplier. And again, it doesn't sound like much, but we made a contract. When we bought something from somebody else, we've made a contract. We've given you money in good faith. You've given us something in good faith. And that contract must be honored. We know the money part works because the money still works, but how do we know that we have delivered the goods? How do we know that the client is happy? We don't. There is no way to find out except to ask for feedback and to ask for feedback repeatedly. If you don't get feedback, there is no way to fix things. For instance, we've been doing courses on psychotactics since almost 2005. So we've done quite a lot of courses and hundreds of people have been through those courses. They love it, and we know that they love it because they keep coming back. These are not cheap courses. Some of them are $2,000, some are $3,500, but clients keep coming back. What happens at the end of the course is people are expected to write anywhere between 500 to 800 words on what was wrong with the course, what was wrong with the system, what was wrong with all of the things that they found could be improved. Now, when you look at the person that's writing that feedback, the first thing is that they don't want to do it. This is an assignment that they've been given, and they don't want to do it. The second thing that you realize is that when they write it, they don't feel like they're complaining, and they're not. They want to come back, and this is the crux of everything, that if you don't get a client back, then you've failed on the most basic elements of business. When people say, I want to sell this product, yes, the first sale pretty much anybody can make. It's not always easy, but you can do it. It's when you get the client back. That is the most crucial part of a business, for somebody to come back. And by the time they come back the third time, what they're doing is they're sitting in a specific spot. They're showing a preference, pretty much like you and I go to a restaurant and we have our table, or we go to a cafe and we have our spot. People tend to have a preference when they visited a place the second time, but definitely the third time. And there will be no second time or third time unless we get the feedback. And that is only one part of the sequence. The second part is the recovery. Way back in 2006, we had a year-long course called The Protégé, and we used to meet up in Campbell, California. On the last day of the course, which had been for almost 5 days, I asked the group to write down and then elaborate on the things that had gone wrong. And of course, they were reluctant, but they did it. And then they started explaining their situation, what they felt could be fixed. And as I sat in the corner of the room listening to them, the thought that crossed my mind was, these people are so ungrateful. I had put in so much effort, and they're not being grateful. I'm a different person now. In fact, I was a different person in a couple of years from then when I realized that they were trying to help me. They were not being silent customers. Yes, I'd initiated it. I'd got the feedback. It was never going to be great. It was always going to find the holes. Nobody likes feedback. Everybody wants praise. Even when we say we can take the feedback, even then we don't take feedback well. And once we get the feedback, then it's a factor of recovery. What are we going to do next? Most people never do anything. Often the client just wants to be heard. And what we tend to do, because we're in the business of teaching, we list out all the suggestions that have been made, and then that goes on a to-do list. That's a public to-do list. For the group, of course, but it's a public to-do list. Everybody can see it, and everybody can benchmark whether we've done what we promised. And that gets the customer back, because they know that you're not just doing what you promised, but you fixed the holes as well. And sometimes you can't fix the holes. Sometimes the demand, as it were, is crazy, and you're just managing perception the next time around. But at least you know. And the one thing you can't do when people give you feedback is make excuses. Renuka and I went to 2 separate Italian restaurants, probably separated by about a month. The first time we had just the manager and the staff member complaining in front of us. So it made for a terrible experience. We've been going to the restaurant for several years in a row. We wrote to them, they apologized, end of story. But it didn't change our meal. We didn't get any recovery from it. We went to another Italian restaurant in the city. The waitress was hungover. We had to be served by 3 other staff members just to cope for this one person. When we spoke to the manager, who I know very well, he said, well, it's difficult to get staff. This is what we're stuck with. And that's not recovery. That's not how you do stuff. The 2 most crucial parts of a business are to get feedback and to recover from it. And to recover from it with grace, and to give the client something so that they come back. Because that's what a business is all about. It is relatively easy to get the first sale, much harder to get the second sale. And by the time you've got the third sale, well, they're coming back on a frequent basis. And you have to get them to give you feedback on a frequent basis. And that's how you run a business. You can have feedback mechanisms on Psychotactics. We ask for the bug of the month. We send a postcard. If the bug is really good, we send chocolate. And if you pick up an ebook, then on every single page, there is a email me. And you can click on that and you can send in your bugs, stuff that you don't like, stuff that you'd like to change. People send in language translations, just little things, or they send in big chunks of stuff that needed to be fixed. And this makes the client come back. And I don't know what else you could want from a business other than a client that's happy and comes back and complains at least part of the time. So if there's something that you don't like about this podcast, or rather that you would fix in the podcast, then let me know. That's me, Sean D'Souza, saying bye for now. Bye-bye. Still listening? If you're wondering how much feedback we get every year, well, it runs into hundreds of little emails here and there. And bear in mind, we've been in business for 21 years, which means that we've had time to fix a lot of things. And yet the feedback keeps pouring in, and we have to keep fixing it all the time. But on this podcast that you're listening to, we used to have an ending music. The podcast would start with the intro music, and the same music would play at the end, and then there would be music after that. And a client wrote in and said, "Why do you have to have two pieces of music at the end? Just go with whatever music you're playing. It's nice enough. Why do we have the starting music at the end?" I had no answer. We just dropped the music at the end, and now you have some pleasant music at the end. So here you go, some pleasant music at the end. Oh wait, you still want to know which is our favorite place on the planet? Well, for me, it's about food. So my favorite place on the planet is Singapore, because when we get off the plane, we head to Orchard Road, and there is a little place in a basement, and I go there to have my roti prata and my kopi, which is a form of coffee in Singapore. Renuka gives me $5 to spend, and I managed to spend around $1.50 for the roti prata and $1.20 for the kopi. There are lots of places on the planet that we like, but that is my favorite place on the planet. And that brings us to the end of this podcast. Time for some pleasant music.